That's close. Oh, what is happening? Down? Is that better? Not better. I look like a second grader. Oh. Hey Freebs, Jordan Page here, and today I'm gonna tell you the 7 bank accounts that every family should have. What? 7? What? You heard me right. I am a frugal living and budgeting expert, and I have been teaching and preaching for over 8 years now. I've spoken all over the country. I've been on national television like Rachel Ray and the Today Show and Good Morning America, all over the place. One of my most effective and most viral principles ever is the 7 bank accounts that every family should have. Now, today is a special day because not only am I going to teach you this principle, but I'm going to share it with you by way of a video pulled directly from my popular budgeting program, budgetbootcamp.com. Why? Well, because my budgeting program explains it best, and I just really couldn't do it any better, honestly. Also, because I wanted to tell you some exciting news, which is that our biggest sale of the entire year is happening in just 2 days. Our early Black Friday sale begins Saturday, and the price will not be this low again for an entire year. I'm going to leave all the details below, and for those of you who are watching this after the Black Friday sale ends, don't you worry, I will leave a secret code just for you at the end of the movie that you can use that won't expire. That's how much I love you. I not only have this budgeting program, but I also have an awesome productivity program called Productivity Bootcamp that helps you manage your time better, get more done, get organized, and find more time to do the things that fulfill you most. Again, I'll leave all the information below, but for now, let's go ahead and get to one of my most popular, most viral, and helpful principles of all time, the 7 bank accounts that every family should have.
When my husband and I were going through our financial disaster, we were poorer than poor. One day I was walking through the grocery store, which happened to have one of those little bank branches in it, and I heard an announcement over the loudspeaker. Attention shoppers, come stop into such and such bank anytime before 5 p.m. and get an instant $150 for opening a new savings account with us. You better believe I didn't even make it halfway through the aisle before turning right around and sprinting to the front of the store. $150 for opening a savings account? Bam, I was on it. It was easy and I got the money instantly. So I went home so excited to tell my husband about it that I had just scored us $150 from some sucker at a bank at the grocery store. He couldn't believe it either. $150 is a lot of money, especially when your income is next to nothing. For the next little while, I'll admit, I kind of made it my purpose to find as many banks as possible that offered an incentive for opening an account with them. Before we knew it, we had a whole handful of accounts and no idea what to do with them because we had to leave at least a small balance in each account, depending on the bank and their regulations. So we decided to use them to help us divide up and organize our money. We used one account to set aside money for bills, another for groceries and my expenses like gifts, another for medical expenses, and so on. And interestingly enough, this happenstance situation actually helped us see that we had become ultra organized, and we were instantly aware of where every dollar of ours was, what it was for, what to do with it, and we kind of realized we were onto something. Since then, my husband and I, we now have over 20 bank accounts between our 5 businesses and family accounts, and we're still opening accounts as needed. Only now, unfortunately, things are a little different and banks aren't necessarily tossing us a ton of money for opening them, but that's also not why we're doing it anymore. And don't worry, 20 accounts is excessive. We realize our circumstances are pretty unique, mostly because of my husband's businesses and whatnot. However, today I am going to encourage you to open at least 7 bank accounts. And I'll show you how to do it to help you organize your money, make your life easier, believe it or not, and help you get on top of your bills, debts, and financial goals. I'm sure you're wondering, why do I need so many accounts? If everyone else has 1 or 2, doesn't that seem to work just fine? And that's a fair question. For one, to answer that, I'll refer you back to the previous video because you just might not need to cut the ends off of your roast anymore just to be like everybody else. And 2, I kind of think of it like a filing cabinet. So picture a filing cabinet with 2 drawers. And we'll pretend the cabinet is a bank that represents the bank, and the drawers represent the 2 types of accounts that we all have, savings and checking. So traditionally, families would have 2 bank accounts, like 2 drawers, 1 checking, 1 savings. This has been done for generations, right? Worked for your grandfathers and their fathers, and that's all fine. But it can kind of be compared to taking important papers and opening the drawer and just stuffing them in the drawer to keep them safe. Sure, it works. They are there, they're in the cabinet knows they're there, they're protected, and when you need them, they're there because they're separated from one drawer to another, right? But do you really know what's going on in there, or what those papers are for? Or heaven forbid you need to find something quickly and easily? Opening multiple checking and multiple savings account is kind of like adding file folders inside those drawers. The money's still there just as it always was. It just suddenly allows you to organize and compartmentalize your papers, aka your money, so you know exactly where it is, what it's for, and you can access it in a snap when you need it. Like I said, I recommend having at least 7 bank accounts per family. Here are some of the accounts we have and how they could be helpful to you. The first bank account I like to call the family savings account. Think of it kind of like your holding tank account. The purpose is that it's for short-term emergencies, like maybe 3 months worth of living expenses saved up in there, ideally. But you use this account for pre-planned expenses that you save up for, like a car or vacation, maybe even Christmas gifts. This account also is where you would pull money from for unexpected expenses, like new tires or home repairs. A few rules and tips for this bank account is get paid to open an account. I know that you don't see that as often as you used to, but if you're going to open the account and put money in it and use it, banks will sometimes reward you for that. So call your bank, shop around, and find one where you can get a little kickback for doing so. One tip that we use in our family that makes it really easy is we automatically draft 10% into that savings account each month. So remember how 20% goes into savings? Well, you split that in half and 10% goes into this one, and I'll show you where the other 10% goes in a second. When you need to withdraw from this account, only withdraw when needed, but just plan ahead. So if you're withdrawing from this account to pay for something like a vacation or bunk beds for your kids, just be sure to wait until you have the full amount saved up, so that way you're not pulling from that little emergency cushion, the 3 months that you ideally have saved up in there. So how much do you leave in this account? You leave 3 months of living expenses at all time, ideally, plus a little cushion for expenses, and obviously any money that's being used to save up for a larger purpose. Pretty simple, not too bad. So the second savings account I recommend is your emergency savings. Consider this the vault. The purpose is for, as it sounds, emergencies only. Picture a piggy bank that you would basically have to shatter on the ground to open. This is a dire last resort, like we are about to lose our house. Dire emergency. A couple rules and tips are, again, automatically draft 10% into this account. So 10% into family savings, 10% to emergency savings. With this account, just pretend it doesn't even exist. Find an account that maybe is at an online bank that's a little harder to pull out of, even if you wanted to. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And auto draft. If you have to manually send 10% every month into that account, it'll be harder to do it because you'll be thinking about all the different ways you can use that money. Make it automatic, and then it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't even have to think about it, but you know that there's always a little cushion to protect your family in case of an emergency. So how much should you have in this account? Pretty simple. Ideally, you would want 6 to 12 months of living on. I mean, 1 year is ideal, but if you could save up 6 months worth of living, just imagine if you or your husband were to lose your job, you would at least have a little cushion to swing you during that tough time. Ideally though, it would be great to never stop depositing if your finances allow. The third type of savings accounts I recommend is a health savings account, or HSA. You can open your own just standard savings account for this, or there is an actual tax-free HSA, health savings account, that's used to hold money that you use to pay off a medical expense. It's amazing because it's tax-free. Now, I will say this, the healthcare industry is constantly changing in our country. You need to do your research and find out how HSAs work right now at the time that you're watching this video. But I'll give you a few rules and tips that'll maybe help you sort through it. Official HSAs that are tax-free, meaning all the money you put into it, you're not taxed on. Amazing, right? Those are available through banks, credit unions, and your insurance companies. What they do is they basically give you this account and you put a little bit of money in or a bunch of money at once, whatever you can afford. We tend to just put a little bit of money away each month and we factor that into our 70%. And then they give you an actual debit card, just like any other account. And that debit card you can use for any medical expense, like a copay or a prescription or an ER visit or a surgery bill, or even a massage or acupuncture. The one thing I will say about HSAs is just be sure to read the fine print. Like I said, things are changing all the time, but just know that there are some official HSAs out there that are use it or lose it accounts, which means at the end of the year, if you don't use the money, you lose it. It's gone, they take it. Obviously, our HSA does not have that. You just need to make sure to read the fine print because some of them do have yearly maximums. They max you out at a certain amount you can put in. So, how much money should you have in this account? You know, honestly, that's just based on your personal family situation. In general, whether it's an official HSA through your credit union or health insurance, or whether it's just a savings account you open that you save for medical expenses, just make sure that it's enough to cover your perceived medical expenses. You obviously don't want to put too much money in there because then you can't be using it for other things, but it is nice to have it so that it doesn't eat into your other savings accounts. All right, so those are the savings accounts. In terms of checking accounts, the first one is called your family checking account, or this is kind of like your home base account. This is where all your money goes before it's sent off to their other jobs. All your paychecks, anything that comes in, drop it here first. A couple of rules and tips for this. Bills, utilities, debts, all that stuff is paid from this account. And as my husband always likes to say, he's a huge fan of auto pay, so use it. It's great because then your payments are automatically drafted from this account. You don't have to sit there and write a check for every single bill. Your money really shouldn't sit in this account for very long before being transferred to other places. So how much should you have in this family checking account? Really only enough to just cover your expenses for the month. You don't want a lot of extra sitting in this account because if you have extra, it should be going into savings, right? But make sure to read the fine print and know how much your bank requires you to leave in this account at all times so you don't overdraft. The next two checking accounts are the same. It's yours and mine. The purpose is probably exactly what you're thinking. You take the money that you need for your yours budget and my budget, and you leave it in this account, and this is what you use to pay for those expenses. A couple of rules and tips. Whether you buy things with cash or debit card or credit card, it all comes from these accounts. My husband and I use one credit card, he uses one credit card, and we just use the money from these accounts to pay them off promptly. And that way we're getting the credit card benefits, but we still know that we're staying within budget and balance by pulling the money from those accounts to pay for it. So how much should you have in this account? Really, just enough to cover the yours and mine budget. You want to cover it reasonably so you're not overdrafting and that you have enough, but you don't want a lot of excess because again, if you have excess, put it towards savings or more importantly, debt. The seventh bank account is also the most fun. I call it a slush fund account. This is basically your Paradise Falls jar. Have you ever seen the movie Up? All they want to do is make it to Paradise Falls and they save their pennies from under the couch cushions and whatever else and they put it in this big jar, but they have to crack the jar open when he breaks his arm or the car breaks down and they never end up making it to Paradise Falls. This is the account that makes sure that you never have to spend your Paradise Falls money on a flat tire or a broken arm. You have all those covered in other places. You've got savings accounts for the broken arms. You've got the family account for the popped tire. This purpose is only for fun. This account is your reward for being frugal and having extras. Remember that envelope budget we went over? If you, at the end of the month, had $10 left over, rather than going and buying a $10 t-shirt, throw that $10 in the slush fund and you'll slowly add up to something that will be really fun and exciting for your family. A couple of tips are just make sure to plan ahead and make a plan for the money so that you don't get itchy to spend it on something. Get your family involved. Set a goal, make it visual. Any spare change or any extras that your kids earn, they could also contribute toward the family slush fund. Sadly, I will say one other tip or rule is that you really shouldn't put any money toward a slush fund until all that pressing debt is paid off. But once that debt is paid off, fair game. How much should you have in this slush fund? Well, really, it just depends on how frugal you are in the month and how much extra you save up. It will most likely build up pretty slowly, but again, don't let it burn a hole in your pocket. Make a plan for it and save up for something so fun and exciting. Now, as I mentioned, my husband and I have far more than 7 bank accounts, so some of these additional accounts could include more checking and savings accounts, maybe one for each of your children as they're born, business accounts like we have. You could open an account to set aside money for Christmas gifts, or you could open a specific account for a specific vacation or large expense that's coming up. Okay, time for a workout. I know that was a lot of information, but don't worry, we've made a nice, beautiful diagram that shows the 7 possible bank accounts that your family could have, keeping in mind that every family is different and you might not have a need or the ability to open 7 accounts. That's okay, we started out really small too. All you need to do is fill out the attached bank accounts diagram, fill it in and make a plan, and then get to work and start making it happen. Go give it a shot, and I can't wait to see how it goes for you. I'll see you back here soon.
So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this principle, and I really hope you give it a try. Don't forget that my budgeting program, budgetbootcamp.com, and my productivity program, productivitybootcamp.com, have hundreds of more principles, tips, and ideas just as good as this one. Be sure to take advantage of the sale, details below. And for those of you who are watching this video after the sale ends, I've got a special code just for you. Use the code SECRET to get 15% off your entire cart so you can pick up either program or both. Hope you enjoyed, you guys. I'll see you next Thursday. Until then, bye.